It's 11.
It sure is. It sure is.
Alright, I think we're live, everyone.
Yeah,
We're
we sure
live.
are. We sure are.
Alright, well, I'm glad both Greg and you, Eric, joined me tonight to spend a little time talking about hobby related stuff. I guess if any of you have been here and watched some of our previous streams, you'll notice that me, Adam, I'm now the host of this stream. We're trying to test out some different things with the streaming and see
Yeah.
if
Yeah,
potentially
no, because
maybe there are
yeah,
fewer
if any
drop
of you,
frames. 'Cause
yeah,
Eric,
if
for
any of
whatever
you
reason,
have
has been having trouble.
watched any of these before, you might have noticed that there were a lot of the lag. There was a lot of lag, particularly in my webcam. So we wanted to see if someone else could try to host it and see if that fixes anything. So I don't know. It looks like it might actually be better, but we'll see. I don't really know if it is better. I'm not really sure what would cause that, but
Yeah, I mean,
so
whatever.
we'll
Whatever.
go from here and just see how things are.
Can you see me when I talk too, or is it only
Yeah, no, you show
just you
up.
two?
You show
Okay.
up.
Because the stream, I guess I'm watching the stream now, but it's a little bit behind.
Yeah, I mean that's just the nature.
And I don't see myself.
It
See,
it is. It works.
No, you're
okay.
you're you're there.
What's on your shirt, Adam?
It is a Black Tusk T-shirt.
Oh, really? I don't think, guys. When did you get
I
that?
mean, I've had it for a while, or
I
I don't even remember when I got it. I know I saw them once in San Diego, and I don't remember if I got it then, or it might have even been
I
before
might be
that.
watching yesterday's stream. That's the problem. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the problem. Cause yeah, okay.
Well, one thing that's is like kind of worth mentioning, um, we or last evening we kind of worked with it and set it up such that now we should be or we are dual streaming, such that we should both be live on Twitch, which was kind of our primary thought, what we wanted to do, but also live streaming simultaneously on YouTube, such that um, whichever is maybe your preferred platform, you should be able to watch it live and participate in the chat, that sort of thing, as well as after the fact, you should be able to watch the actual recorded videos and such. So I think that is
Yeah.
pretty good, and because I know a lot of, or like certainly myself, had used YouTube for a lot longer than Twitch. So I think this might, be a good opportunity that if people haven't used Twitch yet, they could at least sort of see what some of the stuff we're doing. And I think it'll be a nice way because we did start a YouTube channel, like 2 years ago for, it's just between the Bolter and me. And we did a few unboxing videos, but then kind of stopped doing it for various reasons. But we had also put some of our initial podcasts on there. And I think, Greg, you had edited some of them to put in pictures of the stuff we were talking about, which was nice, but it was really, really time consuming.
Yeah, it took fucking forever, and I didn't think anyone watched them, but I guess maybe looking back on it, some people did.
Yeah, but I think so. This might be able to sort of satisfy that we'll be able to have the podcast and any of these live streams up there, and you'll be able to see the models we're talking about. So I think that it'll be an easier way to do it, but people can still view that content, listen or watch it, at a later date. Or if it's live, if you can join then at the time, you can actually chat with us and that sort of thing. So I think that's pretty good. I guess
Hardly, or keep on
continue.
going there.
Continue.
Hardly related to what we're like streaming about, but I started up Twitch to watch the stream as we're streaming it, and there was an advertisement for the new Fallout game, Fallout 76. And I guess it was supposed to be funny or something, but like, holy shit, it looked dumb. There were like sloths in it, and
It's in West Virginia, man. I think.
well,
I'm pretty sure that's true.
I think the idea is the first of all is that there aren't NPCs in it, maybe, or very few.
Yeah,
so
don't
like
you play with
everybody's
other
playing
people
online
or some
something?
shit?
Yeah, so it's primarily an online thing where. So I don't know. It doesn't sound too great, but
Not
Yeah.
so much, yeah.
who knows? Who knows what to make of that?
Well, I mean, that's pretty cool. Their advertisements for the viewers. I think everyone would love them, right?
Well, I think like last week sometime, Ninja, who's like a pretty famous now Fortnite streamer, someone else, and like the guy who does the voice for Rick and Morty, they
Mhm.
did a stream together playing Fallout
Okay.
76.
Apparently it was outrageously awkward.
Yeah, that's what I heard too.
That's good. That's
no.
good.
I mean, I do love Rick and Morty, but
Real fake doors.
come on down, the real fake doors. That's us.
Won't open? Won't open.
None of them open.
Yeah, well, yeah, so Fallout, not too interested in it. I mean, the first Fallout, the first in particular, the second Fallout were really good, but,
Then
The
came
other-
Fallout
They're
3.
pretty old games.
yeah,
Probably a lot of current day gamers didn't play any of them. They started out with Fallout 3.
Fallout 3, and I mean, it was a fine game, but it's too, I say just too much of a fucking Bethesda game? Horrible.
You
I
went
mean,
there. It needed to be said.
Bad.
Yeah, I just, no, I don't, no.
It needed to be said.
Unrelated to that, and kind of just sort of announcing stuff. In addition to like being on YouTube now with these streams and Twitch, we also started a Discord channel such that people can, after the stream or something, chat or say stuff, make suggestions. I guess
Doing
general
all the things now, it
stuff.
seems.
And I guess if anyone is interested in that, there's like an invitation link at the bottom of like the Twitch channel. There's like informational stuff that will tell you when the next stream is, stuff like that. But there's a link to get an invite. So certainly welcome anyone to join that and chat or whatever. But we'll see how that works. I think in the future, like you can use Discord for video chat and stuff, so it might even be a way to use like talk to other people through like voice chat and stuff too. But I don't know. We'll work with that and see how it works out.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess with that, yeah, I guess we can actually maybe start to talk about some hobby related stuff.
Yeah, I feel we can. Because that's, I feel, why most people would have come here anyway, right?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Has anyone been working on anything? I mean, I guess maybe I can start. I was painting a little bit of a Dark Angel Primaris True Scale sort of conversion that I did a while back, but admittedly, I only did a small amount on it, and then got sort of sidetracked with assembling some of the I don't know what the fuck they call them, this Ministorum terrain or whatever that had been on Shadow War, or that had initially come out with Shadow War Armageddon. I'm not sure if this is how well displayed this is. Yeah, but some of this stuff.
Good. Well, Erica, when you started talking about that, you were saying Minas something, and I thought you were going to say Minas Tirith, like Lord of the Rings soldier people. And it's like,
Would have been really cool.
what?
No one plays that anymore, Greg.
But they just released the new game, right? Or a few months ago. At the local Games Workshop in San Diego, that was one of the primary things people were playing. Like every week, every time I'd come, there were people there playing it. Crazy.
It's probably kind of good, but yeah. And here's another piece that I'm still working on, and the terrain is pretty nice. I don't know if I'm being displayed here, so
It's being displayed.
but yeah. So there's a piece, and like there's a bunch of it. Like I got a set of the stuff that had come in Shadow War Armageddon when that was still a game before it was,
Forgotten?
for like immediately forgotten, when Necromunda was then actually re-released and changed a little bit, and then yeah. So, but yeah, so I've been assembling some of that essentially because a good friend of mine that's also or is currently in graduate school contacted me and said they were interested in trying to start to play Kill Team sort of out of the blue. It's like, okay, well, maybe I'll actually start to play that. I mean, I feel we have the rules but never actually really started to play it, so this is an excuse to try to do that, and hell, maybe start playing some of Games Workshop games again.
Yeah, novel concept.
Yeah, hard to believe.
Well, we already played one game, right? I played a game using some Primaris Marines against some Skitarii forces.
Yeah, and actually, I think on Thursday this week, I'm gonna try to play something again. So crazy.
Apparently this Thursday, at least in Pennsylvania, it's supposed to snow. First snow of the year. So it's probably the same in Baltimore.
Yeah, I think so. Or it's like snow to rain or something, like a mix or whatever. So we'll see.
When people told me that, I said, I'll believe it once I'm driving in it.
Yeah, no, so I don't know what I'm usually kind of excited for snow in the sense that I use public transportation primarily. I mean, I know none of you do, but I still do, and like I don't have to deal with it, so it's cool if there's snow. But
also,
maybe not as great because the apartment now is like horribly insulated. So if there's snow, that means it's cold, and
I doubt it will stick on the ground too much because the ground's still too warm. But Thursday evening, I'm going to see Tim Barry play. First time I've seen him in a while. So if anyone who doesn't know who Tim Barry is, he's a singer-songwriter from Richmond, Virginia. He kind of started his musical career in some punk rock bands from Virginia, namely Avail. And for the past, 15 years or more, he's played like solo acoustic folk sort of stuff. He's great. I feel his recorded stuff's really good, but it's even better seeing him live. So, Tim Barry, you should look him up if you are not familiar with him.
Well, now that you mention that, Greg, I feel that's something we've been kind of talking about for a little bit, about other sort of articles and stuff we might be able to do for the blog. And like music is certainly kind of a big thing for, all of us, the three of us. And it would be interesting to try to see if we could incorporate some of that almost as like inspiration for some of the projects and things we work on, because I think it certainly has an influence, kind of where some of our ideas and inspirations come from. So I feel it could be kind of neat to consider that and do a little bit more with that. And I guess it would be interesting to hear if other people think that would be something interesting to pursue. I mean, obviously, like as one would expect, no one's actually watching this now, so
Yeah.
That's why it's on YouTube.
I have a music blog, I still have it, but I haven't updated it in probably 3 or 4 years. So I used to write about music, and maybe I will start to write about it again for Between the Bolter and Me. We'll see. Maybe there's some interest in it. I mean, I'm already kind of interested in writing about it, regardless of whether people seem to want it. So,
We could probably relate the artists and stuff as like inspiration and stuff to different projects. So
Hmm. It's true. It's true.
so I guess if getting back to like hobby related stuff, so I'm continuing working on that Sister of Sigmar model that I posted on the blog here, and here I just showing part of the information from the blog post we posted on the Sister of Sigmar. Um, Most of my efforts have been focused on doing more detailing work, more sculpting detailing work, particularly like the model here. At the point of the post, I had done no work on like resculpting her boots and pants and stuff like that. So that's what I've been slowly working on
can you
now.
show a picture of some of the resculpting as a sneak peek for the few people that come and watch this Twitch?
How would I do that?
You have, I guess, based on how the Streamlabs stuff, which is the software we're using to do this, you might be able to pull a picture into the bottom corner where
Where you're
our
talking,
faces are. That might work.
but
That's that's the only way that I think it could easily work.
Well, no,
okay, just a minute.
it's hard. It doesn't really matter.
Let's see if I can. I might be able to arrange something.
Yeah, but at the moment we're sort of streaming in a optimal position. I think having dual monitors and some of that stuff would help tremendously. But at the moment we're just doing it with one, or Adam, you are at least currently, and
Yeah.
it's harder to set stuff up that works well.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait, this might have done it. Oh, yeah, I did it. Alright, so there. There we can see
Oh,
a
let's do
picture
that.
of one of the boots that I've been working on. And so I don't know if any of you read the post. The legs were just taken from the Caldor model, base model that I used as the foundation, but I removed the feet and replaced them with some of the feet from the Wood Elf Glade Guard. And even those I found were a little too fat, so I ended up going in and shaving them down on the sides to make the boots a little thinner and narrower. But and then over top of that, I've been like sculpting the boots. And here I'll bring it up another image here, resculpting the boots. So they're going pretty well. I still have a bunch of work that I need to do on them, and I've really only worked primarily on one of the two boots. But
Yeah, no, that's a lot of work, Adam, which I mean, I guess most of your projects and stuff you're working on now, I feel, tend to go this route where doing lots and lots of sculpting and stuff.
yeah, no, I don't know if going into a lot of the projects I'm necessarily planning to do that, but I feel like every time I start working, like I put together different pieces and stuff and realize, you know what, this really isn't what I want, or this isn't really what I want it to look like. And
Hmm.
most of the time there aren't plastic alternatives that can really fit in with what I'm envisioning, so
Hmm.
yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I sort of wish, like, man, I wish I would just like take a whole bunch of plastic kits, kit bash them together, and say like, yeah, that's fine, because then you can make a whole bunch of really cool models that way. But
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that would be actually might be a good thing to kind of talk about in more depth at some point about sort of where some of our inspirations come and how we go about building models. A friend of ours that goes by Cordal, I believe is how you'd say it, on Instagram, like the K0RDHAL. He actually kind of asked about that and wanted to know if we'd be interested in talking about it. And I think it would be good to good to talk about in depth, but I feel we could say a little bit about it here, and because it's kind of relevant. But like, I feel it's interesting that in a lot of cases, like kit bashing is certainly a big thing in how people build models now, at least for Inquisitor 28 and that sort of thing. Um, and there are so many more kits available now than there used to be, like with all the Necromunda stuff and Blood Bowl and Age of Sigmar, 40k, all that. That I feel just looking at new models and such, you can kind of come up with ideas for things how you'd want to kit bash this or that. But unfortunately, I feel because so many of their kits are like scaled differently that even if you do initially come up with some idea of something you want to do and like maybe get some models or order some parts on eBay or whatever, you get them and realize like this shit just doesn't work. Or like maybe it works in a passably, but if you actually want to make something that like is really sort of the thing you had envisioned initially, it often doesn't work. And I guess it looks like you're at
Yeah, case in point, I recently bought some of these new Blood Bowl like dark elf models, thinking that they'd be great for like some of the Sister of Sigmar stuff, at least as like the foundation of certain models. Primarily just because like their legs are pretty cool. They have a bunch of like boots and leather pants and stuff. They're proportioned, I feel, better than a lot of the GW models.
Yeah, and they don't necessarily look like American football players or rugby players too much.
And I thought I could
not
essentially
tons of armor and stuff.
Use them and like trim off some of the detail or resculpt stuff. And I don't know. I'm now comparing, I have a picture up on the stream, comparing the Sister of Sigmar to what I think is the smallest model in the set, which is like the Witch Elf. And you'll notice she stands like a good head taller than the Sister of Sigmar that I'm currently working on.
I'm just comparing the feet.
Yeah, so I mean, they're pretty different.
Yeah,
And I don't know, I might be able to get away with converting one model from the set and just under the notion that sister is just a lot larger than some of the other ones. And I don't know, maybe I'll do that, but it's sort of a shame. And I guess a lot of the Blood Bowl models, they're scaled a little differently, and I feel they're probably a little larger than...
Yeah, I mean, ultimately,
the
that's
40k and Warhammer
like,
stuff.
Games Workshop isn't beholden to us to make them the same scale and such. I mean, it still is kind of odd that they would be so different in the sense that, and I mean, they vary between 40k kits too, but it still seems kind of odd for like a hobby that like they refer to it as a hobby. They want you to paint, convert, like do all these things. It's sort of interesting that like they are so different, but
I mean, and I guess for Blood Bowl, like it's a little different in that, like, I guess I think it would be interesting to compare all the different Blood Bowl teams to one another and see how they compare, because like the main like male Dark Elf Bruisers or whatever, I don't know what they're actually called. I feel they're probably about as large as like Primaris Space Marines. Like, they're huge. They're huge.
Yeah, and that doesn't seem quite right.
No, it's a little strange. So, I don't know. That's where I am in terms of, like, hobby-related stuff. Still lots of work to do on this Sister of Sigmar, and then I have to start planning out the next few models for the warband, because I feel if I don't get a move on, I'll rapidly run out of time to make the whole warband. But I guess sort of related to some of that stuff, and like sculpting and everything. I recently, in the mail, got this book about sculpting. In this case, the book's called Anatomy for Sculptors. And this book was recommended by a fellow sculptor who is actually the main sculptor for, what's it called? Statuesque Miniatures, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah,
Yes,
that's right.
And we've sort of befriended him, the main sculptor there, through our blog and with like Instagram posts and such. And he's, as of late, has been posting a lot of things, kind of questioning some of the design choices for like anatomy and stuff in recent Games Workshop models, and that's where he sort of teed off that, like, if you're not aware of that book, that you should look into it and try.
Yeah, I
and
mean,
get a copy
some
of
of his
it.
tweets are pretty funny. Looking
So
at
his name's Andrew Ray. Maybe that's not how I pronounce his last name. Rae. Andrew Ray. I mean, it says his name on his website, so I don't think he's too concerned with us saying his name.
Yeah, but like, it's a good, if you're interested in sculpting and stuff, or even not even just sculpting, just like in your like kit bashing and converting and stuff. Like, I think it's a great reference. Like, it's primarily just filled with pictures and like explanations for like different parts of the body, and how, like, oh, if your arm is lifted in this way or that way, this is what it would look like, and like where like your different muscles and stuff are.
yeah, and
Like,
it shows
it's
you
gonna
why
be
so
hard to
many of
see
Games
this stuff.
Workshop's models look so wrong.
Yeah. So, well, I think it'll be a good reference. Just if you're trying to think about, like, oh, how do I want to pose this, or like, man, do I want to put the arm of the model out in this way or that way? Just looking through there will kind of give you a sense of, like, you know what, that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, or
Yeah, certainly having references for anything is very helpful, like for painting, or if like you're trying to paint a tank or something and you want to have some rust effects or like weathered effects, like having actual reference material is really helpful for like making it look more natural. And it kind of the same obviously goes for like anatomy and poses and stuff like that, that I feel spending that little extra time to consider that can go a long way. Or certainly that's kind of how we feel about it. I mean, particularly for you, Adam, like you're spending all this time to like resculpt boots and such, whereas like in the more traditional kit bashing ethos, it would just be like, well, switch that head, change that weapon, like it looks pretty cool, that's good enough. Which, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
and I feel that's more how we started as well, anyway.
Yeah, because in some vein, like it can be kind of nice or cool in the sense of just like, I'd rather just make a new model rather than like fine tune another one. Kind of like Isaac Asimov's sort of mentality about writing books. Like he's a famous science fiction author that wrote like the Foundation trilogy and iRobot and came up with the 3 laws of robotics and such. But in his lifetime, he wrote like over 500 books. The point that he'd like publish a new book like every month, from like science textbooks to fiction to like all sorts of stuff. And yeah, he had some famous quote that kind of amounted to that like he would rather, like, he doesn't want to go back and really spend a lot of time editing and revising ideas. He'd rather just write a new book. And so I feel that some people more approach the hobby that way, and like there's nothing wrong with that. That's good too.
Yeah, no, certainly. And I feel in terms of just being a hobbyist, experimenting with both avenues can be helpful. And also, I guess, depending on what the project and stuff is, anything like that could be, say, a good exercise to get you either sculpting more or, like, just trying to see how much you could eke out or how much you could just do with the plastics themselves.
Yeah, no, so that's certainly true. It's certainly true.
Yeah.
So, Adam, we briefly mentioned that last week we actually tried to play a game of Kill Team. Like, it's probably like what's the last time you actually played a Games Workshop game? Was it probably like the Curse of the Alabaster thing? Like,
yeah, it was that event, which was, I guess, probably like 2 years ago.
Yeah, in LA, our blog has some, like, a tab along the top has a bunch of posts and stuff about it. But yeah,
for that event, I made like a little unit of Adeptus Arbites, and who knew? I think now, at least in some of my initial Imperial Guard kill teams, I'm probably gonna just use those Adeptus Arbites as like stormtroopers or something.
Yeah, I mean, you need lots of them, like, because they're so inexpensive point-wise. I mean, admittedly, like...
So 2 years later, I'm using the same models. Shit
because it's difficult that way, but...
Yeah. But I guess also sort of the thought was, like, the different Imperial Guardsmen that have been working for months on sculpting and casting and all that stuff, like, I'll be using them for the kill team as well.
Yeah, no, that's true. But, like, yeah, so we played, like, a game of it. Like, what did you think? Like,
I had a lot of fun with it, actually. Like, I didn't know quite what I was expecting going into it. But there was a lot more, like, back and forth with the game than I sort of remembered when I used to play Warhammer 40,000.
Well, admittedly, none of those games really did have much back and forth.
Well, like, I'm saying, yeah, they didn't. This actually had some.
Yeah,
but that was the point I was trying to make.
Yeah, I feel that's a good element of Kill Team that, I mean, certainly some of them are still more turn-based in the sense that, like, you move your entire, like, the person with initiative moves all of their kill team, and then but then it immediately goes to the other player and they move all theirs. So, like, and then when it goes into, like, shooting and psychic phase, shooting, close combat, like, it just alternates between models, and I think that makes the games a lot more engaging. Unless,
well, I don't know. Like, to me, it was also like, it wasn't just two gun lines shooting at each other.
Yeah, you actually would have to, like, I mean, even though a lot of shooting occurred in it, like, there was still, like, a little bit more, like, tactical consideration, like, what's the best order to approach this, like, based on how the other player moved their models, like, what should I do to kind of counter that, realizing that they're going to get the first potential shots and, like, things like that, and whether you're going to move your models at all, because if you don't move them, they, like, ready and they get the opportunity to fire before others. So I think that's all pretty good. And I mean, honestly, the game is pretty interesting in that I feel like it is a lot like Necromunda and some of those older skirmish games, but with some of the 8th edition 40k streamlining for, like, weapon profiles and, like, stat lines. Ballistic skill, weapon skill is just a flat roll that you have, like, number you have to hit. And, like, Necromunda, there's still flesh wounds and going out of action when you take your last wound, all that stuff. But I think, so it sort of merges Necromunda and 8th edition in, I think, a pretty good way. I mean, all of them seem kind of obvious and, like, not too novel or new. Like, it still felt like you were playing those same games. But the fact that there's the alternating back and forth makes the whole game more, like you feel involved in it the whole time.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, Greg, maybe we'll have to get you to play at some point.
I don't know about that. Me playing. I played Shadespire though.
Mm-hmm. We actually had an episode of the podcast a little while back, kind of talking about some of that. But I'd like to play more of that because, like, that was, in at least recent memory, that was one of the things that I was most impressed that it was like actually a fun and good, interesting game. But I think Kill Team is certainly like more like 40K than like obviously Shadespire. But I think there are some elements that were streamlined in the back and forth stuff that make it a more enjoyable game, at least for the sort of stuff I like to play and do. I don't have a huge interest in like constantly trying to find the best, most meta breaking list or something in 40K and like, oh, Orcs just got the new codex, better like buy 150 boys, or no, like even if you had an old like army, it's like, oh, Storm Boys are great now, let's go get 90 Storm Boys. And like
how are you gonna assemble all those? You couldn't.
Yeah.
Or I couldn't.
Yeah, I couldn't. It takes too long.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
And the plastic Storm Boys aren't. They're only okay.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of them.
No.
Not much of a fan.
But the only thing that is somewhat annoying, like I don't love Primaris Space Marines in general and like the lore associated with them. But like I didn't care too much since I haven't really been playing games or anything like that. But going into starting to play Kill Team, like I wanted to make a Dark Angels Kill Team. In particular, since I've converted some simple conversions using the Primaris Space Marines to make just normal Space Marines, like changing the weapons, cutting off some of the knee fins, changing backpacks, stuff like that. So I've done that, but then when making the Kill Team, Space Marine Kill Team has 4 choices of so they have 4 different things that they can use, but 2 of them are Primaris ones and 2 of them are just normal Space Marines. So which it's like the Intercessors, which are the normal Primaris, and their Reavers, and then normal Tactical Marines and Space Marine Scouts. So admittedly, I'm probably never going to play in a competitive sense, but it still does bring up this odd choice. So if I'm going to use these as Space Marines, I really can't use the Primaris rules. And I can't mix Space Marines and Primaris Space Marines. So I don't know. It makes the ability to do list stuff kind of difficult. But I'll figure something out, I guess. Oh, good to see you joined us, Wild Sylvanian. Yes, 90 of any model does sound horrible. It does sound really horrible. I can't even fathom that. Whew. Yeah, hey, good that you're able to join us. But yeah, actually, so interesting, the subject kind of Twitch streaming and stuff. The people kind of behind the Long War podcasts and streams and such, which is like Kenny Boucher, Rob Bear, those people, they recently, I think it was on Sunday, did a stream in which they did a kind of a live stream of a battle report they were, or a game they were playing using the New Orc Codex against demons, I think. And they were using kind of all the sort of tournament rules and timelines, using a chess clock to make sure they played stuff right. And just to play the Orc army which had like 80 Storm Boys and a bunch of Gretchen and stuff, just to play it and not kind of use the other person's time. Like they never played the shooting phase in any of the turns to save time, and like they just didn't do a lot of phases and things just because like there simply isn't time to do it unless you're like, because I think oftentimes you only have like 3 hours to play a tournament game and such, and like
Yeah. Oh boy.
you don't want to be like that player that, oh, I have 150 models that like all those 3 hours are you like pushing around boys or something. So I don't know. It makes for an interesting thing.
Fun.
No, it doesn't. Like, and it sounds like really stressful that you have to be like kind of on the top of your game, making sure that you're like as efficient as possible, not wasting time with dice and all this stuff. Like, just not what I want to do. What I want to do.
God, so do you know what point, like what size armies and stuff they were using? Where they presumably they're the typical ones that are used in most.
I think it was 2,000 points, and maybe they were using ATC's missions. I think it was an ATC mission, which admittedly I don't even really know what quite that entails. But
that sounds awful.
Yeah. Ward Sylvania, as to what you missed, we've largely just been talking about hobby related stuff and kind of just talking. Like, we don't have any intention of like actually creating a podcast out of any of this stream, just sort of talking about stuff.
I guess one of the important things is I recently acquired this reference here, this Anatomy for Sculptors book, which is largely just a book filled with like pictorial like references and stuff of the human body, talking about and showing how in different motions and positions and such the human body actually looks like. And I thought it would be a good reference to kind of like help with like my conversions and sculpting and stuff like that.
And you can see why so many of the Games Workshop Space Marines and their poses are so bad.
Yeah, it shows a lot of stuff that kind of really points to why like some of that looks so awkward and bad.
Yeah.
And like for instance, like your wrist, a lot of Space Marines, like to hold their bolters, their wrist has to essentially twist in an unnatural way where you don't actually have any muscles that allow you to turn your hand upwards, and so it sort of just shows like a lot of that stuff, telling you like don't try and twist the wrist or hand up like that because there aren't muscles there, and it's hard to do.
Yeah, well, it's good to hear that you are trying to sculpt and attempt to sculpt stuff more. I mean, even you mentioned that with some limited success, but I feel that's for everything with the hobby. Like, you need to practice, and like if you don't try to do it, like you're never gonna get better. So, I mean, certainly,
I feel like all of the sculpting and stuff that I really started doing, it really largely only started with like the blog itself, and like initially most of like the work that I had done was all really simple, and it was largely just like filling in gaps or doing really simple let's see if we look on the blog, if I can. Okay, well, so this is, I guess, the
oh, so hell, that was a long time ago. You're still trying to sculpt stuff for the Duke conversion.
Yeah, so but like I don't know, for like a lot of these like little Trueborn conversions that I was doing, like it was largely just putting together different components and green stuffing in some of the different seams and stuff, and then on top of that, I'd go and try and do other things where I'd try and... So, like here, I tried to do a conversion of the Duke. And it was largely
back when he was a special character. Oh.
Well, yeah, he was back in the day. But it was largely just filling out areas and stuff, most of which were just flat areas. And nothing super complicated. And I just sort of went from there. And the biggest thing that I took away from a lot of this earlier work was I do everything really slowly. I wouldn't force myself to try and finish any one thing in like one sitting. So probably even like if we're looking at this Duke conversion here, I mean, all that different green stuff work there. I mean, I probably completed that in probably like 6 to 8 different sessions where I'd work on a small section of it, play around with it enough until I was at least vaguely happy with it and then stop.
Yeah, I feel it's so soft and it's so easy to like try to do stuff, even if you're filling gaps, and then like try to do another portion of the model and then realize like you touched it and like put a fingerprint in it or like pushed it out of position and such, that it's kind of a pain. Which admittedly maybe some other sculpting material is better for base, sort of more of the basics sort of sculpting and whatnot, but
yeah, so I mean that's true. I guess that's another thing that we could at least briefly mention. I finally actually got some Milliput, which essentially this is another 2-part like epoxy putty. And at least from what I've heard from other sculptors and other people working with it, when it finally hardens, it hardens a little harder than, say, green stuff, and it's more amenable to sanding and other stuff like that. So that's something that I'm going to be working on and trying to see if I can incorporate that.
Yeah, I feel in the hobby there's always something new to learn, and like there's a lot of depth that you can go into basically everything.
So that's certainly true.
One thing that's maybe worth mentioning that is that in addition to doing this live stream on Twitch, it's simultaneously occurring on YouTube now, such that if you prefer that platform, like it's there and should be, like you should be able to watch the streams after the fact as well as recordings that are just on our YouTube channel, which, yeah, we do have a YouTube channel that has been neglected for like 2 years because they didn't have anything to do with it and I wanted to stop my bad unboxing videos. But now they'll be up there too. And I guess also we have a Discord channel now as well, that if you're interested in seeing it, I mean, no one's in there now, but maybe people will be eventually. There's like an invite link in the kind of informational stuff below the Twitch channel stream, like below the About Us stuff. So if you're interested, if you use Discord, anything like that, you could join, and anyone could join and like just chat about things, share work in progress stuff, or anything like that. And so yeah, feel free to do that.
Yeah. So actually here, in terms of talking about sculpting and stuff again, like here are some other, these like Alpha Legion Space Marines that we're working on. Like here again, like most of the green stuff work I did was largely just filling in gaps or adding like really small details. For in this case, I had like little straps and stuff holding on this dagger. And I feel I probably did that in like 1 or 2 sessions, where I initially just started out trying to make like largely flat and square surfaces for like the initial attachment, and then other flat and square like rectangles and stuff to try and mimic straps and stuff, and just slowly sort of trying to go from there.
he Warwick Sylvania says here, I'm doubtful that a flash suppressor would make much use on a weapon that fires rocket pellet grenades. Yeah, I mean that's certainly true, but I feel Games Workshop waffles back and forth on what they think a bolter is. And
Yeah,
certainly
yeah.
they're like stalker bolt rifles or whatever that shit is they have, like some of them have suppressors and such. So like it is a questionable thing, like how deep you want to go with bolters and like what you want to do with them. One thing actually that is worth mentioning there, like you actually have one of the folding stocks on that rifle you were working on there. And it
That's
also
true.
sort of points out why the wrist thing that Games Workshop tends to do is so wrong. And that's like why almost like they can't even put stocks on stuff easily because their wrists are bent up unnaturally to the point that like there's no place that the stock could even go. Whereas like that conversion you're doing with that Alpha Legion thing, it is like you had to modify it and remove that hand such that they could even do that.
Yeah, and I feel like with this weapon, like you'd sort of have to suspend some of your disbelief, and probably the ammunition and the cartridges that this is using are probably not the standard bolter rounds because that shit just wouldn't work.
No.
And I
No,
think
it
also for
wouldn't.
this model, the pictures don't really represent it, but like the little ports or whatever in the barrel, those are eventually filled in with green stuff because, yeah. Otherwise, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense.
No, no, it doesn't. But
But then again,
these
I
models,
made these Alpha Legion guys, and like I don't even know what we're gonna do with them now. I don't really want them.
nah, they're so
Like their
squatty.
proportions are so bad. Like I no.
I mean, it was a good
Anyone
learning
listening
experience.
and wants them, they could probably have them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
But
I
I don't
have
know.
some.
That was a start. We at that point, I don't know what year this was. Like our second year of blogging, I think we weren't that point. We were trying to make stuff better and like make small incremental improvements and stuff. Like I guess you can hardly tell here, but the left hand holding the bolter at like the foregrip of the bolter, like I actually resculpted the bottom or like the palm of the hand because if you ever looked at some of the older or like all of the plastic Space Marines, that hand is really flat and really narrow and it looks horrible. So like
The newer ones, or some of the newer ones,
they're a
have
little
gotten a
better.
lot
They're
better.
better. But here, like I resculpted that, trying to make it look better. And I mean, I'm assuming that's a detail no one ever saw. And Eric, you probably didn't even know about it. And
Yeah, yeah. Do
but
I
I
have
did
those
that.
models now?
Repeat that.
Do I have these models, or do
I
you
think
still
I
have
might have them.
them?
But yeah, so I guess at this point we were trying to make things better and like make the bolters make a little more sense.
Yeah.
And I mean, we only got so far. And I mean, I even like this guy here, like he has that holographic sight, but it's probably not quite aligned right. Like I don't think he could actually look down that very well, but it looks okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
It's okay.
but we were attempting to make things a little better.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, so even for us, it's always just a learning experience
What's
trying to
not an
improve
improvement
stuff.
about that model is that shitty tech deck base he's standing on.
No, the tech deck bases are nice. Provide a nice weight to them too. Like I like them overall.
I think that design there at least kind of sucks.
I mean, I don't even. I mean, a lot of. I mean, and this is like another thing. At least with a lot of the bases and stuff that are designed, while some of my field tend to look kind of cool, most of the time there's just far too much detail and stuff going on in them. And if you were to think back, like the last time you were standing in like a warehouse or something, like how much is like going on the floor you're standing on. Most of the time, there's not that much.
Yeah, I mean, certainly some of like I feel Dragon Forge bases are still rather nice. There's certainly a lot, in my opinion, a lot better designed than a lot of like the secret weapon. I think that's secret weapon miniatures bases, and they're certainly better than GW's kind of shoddy plastic like ones.
The Necromundan ones are nice. They're pretty nice.
Yeah, so he has Ornsylvania mentions that's because it's a tripping hazard. It's true. Like you wouldn't have all that shit.
Yeah.
But well, and some, admittedly, some of Dragon Forge bases, resin bases, have lots of, or some of them have different elevations and stuff that make them very hard to use.
Yeah, yeah.
But also, yeah, no, I guess the Necromunda bases are nice. Like they're a little overly busy, but at least it's something, and you don't have to spend too much time working with them. So I mean, they're nice, and they're pretty cheap too, or inexpensive, at least in relationship to Games Workshop products. So
yeah, so let's actually see if looking on the blog if I can find. Oh yeah, I mean if we look at the most recent Imperial Guardsman that I painted, like that was, or I guess both of these. Can we, like both of them, like I made an effort to make their bases pretty simple, because for the most part, where they're walking or whatever in these like metal corridors and stuff, I wouldn't imagine they'd have tons of stuff like at their feet. So it is what it is for whatever that's worth.
You know, as you mentioned there, Watson, just filling, adding texture and filling in some of the areas with like dirt and debris and stuff like that can certainly help to kind of minimize some of the questionable aspects of it and make the base more interesting. Because yeah, certainly adding different sort of textures to a model in general is pretty good to like add some variety and make the stuff look a little bit more like realistic.
Yeah, that's true. That's certainly true.
So also it mentions here that those models push the realism far enough that they aren't immediately recognizable as GW models.
Yeah.
So I mean, I feel that was at least partially sort of the intent, like because obviously they're certainly very based on some of the Elasian models, but like a lot has been changed that they don't look, and at least I've gotten a few people on Instagram and stuff saying like, oh, that's a cool model, but it's not 40K, which I think is kind of bullshit. Like, no, like that's just a modern soldier, and certainly a lot of aspects are made to look like that, but no modern soldiers are really probably having bionic eyes and shit like that, and like no, and like I don't know, I don't think everything in 40K has to be like the Volstrians, or I don't know if that's how you say that stuff.
With the stupid furry hats and
like dumb long rifles and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, haters gonna hate. It's true. It's true.
But
so, like us hating the Volstrians.
It's true.
I mean, there's some interesting aspects of them, but like with GW,
I think even them, they could have been cool, but how they were designed was not.
Yeah. Some of the artwork.
Somebody could take the general idea of them and I think make it a neat set of models out of them.
I agree.
Well, Anna from Gardens of Hecate, or if that's what it's called, she made a pretty neat Volstrian.
Oh yeah, he was cool.
kind of based on some of John Blanche's sort of original illustrations from them. So
it's possible.
Yeah. I think that the Volstreams are a very kind of very 40K and sort of their weird archaic elements and such. And I feel if they were made better, they would be a lot like they could be cool. But I mean, I feel that fits with most of Games Workshop models. Like they could be cool, and increasingly, like most of their models are almost all of them are well made and well sculpted and such. But I feel sometimes
they're approaching cool.
Yeah,
I just hate the Volstream, the models, like all of their rifles, their stocks like curved down such that it's kind of like a pistol grip. Like it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, they're bad. They're really bad.
Yeah, well, I feel they're almost like old, like smoothbore rifles. Some of like the camel guns and shit like that. That just, well, some things may have existed like that in the past. They were not designed to like be held like the Volstreams were. Like they're trying to fit two disparate things together, not or seemingly not understanding like how they had been used in the past and just to look different.
I mean, but even on top of that, like one of the things that I always liked about the 40,000 universe is I always sort of got the impression that the universe was so vast that it was sort of allowed for like essentially whatever you could conceive or whatever you'd want. You could imagine there'd be like an Imperial Guard regiment like that, or so. And I mean, that's certainly what some of like the lore and some of that, like if you read some of the novels, sort of like hint towards that notion. So,
you know, I mean, that's what's good about the hobby. You have a lot of freedom to kind of do what you want and explore the things you like, or just ignore all that and just play the game too. That's fine too. It's just not what I want to do. Not what I want to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, hey friends, I think I want to go to bed.
Yeah, it's getting kind of late. We've been talking for a little while now here.
I mean, I guess Adam, you and Eric, you can keep talking if you want, but boy, I'm tired and I have a bunch of lab work that needs to happen tomorrow.
Yeah, that's rough. Yeah, I don't know. I feel we can probably.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there are any other big points we wanted to cover or mention tonight. I think we got through most of them.
Just talking about this and that. I mean, and one thing that I feel we still haven't completely set on like when we're always going to do these streams, but there's now like a counter kind of on the Twitch thing suggesting when the next will be, and I think we're going to try to do it on Tuesdays at like 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, at least for the time being, such that maybe some people can start to kind of get that or like be aware that, oh, they might be doing it this evening, that sort of thing, rather than it just be strictly random all the time.
And then,
but all that is subject to change. And certainly, if anyone's watching them after the fact, like comment wherever on our blog, maybe through Discord that we started, that should be in kind of the informational portion of the Twitch stream, all that stuff. But yeah, no, I think consistency is important, and it will be good. I mean, hopefully we'll be able to start to do it even more, but at least at the moment, we're going to be trying to do on Tuesdays in the evenings here. So
yeah,
and yeah, go from there. And whether some of them will probably be recording episodes of the podcast, others just sort of talking about whatever's suggested or what's ever kind of exciting at the time, the stuff we're working on, things like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess ultimately, thanks everybody for watching this, and particularly you, Ward Sylvania. Thanks for joining us again and conversing with us and such. And hopefully, we'll be able to continue to do that, and maybe also get some other viewers and such in the future. So it should be good.
Yep. All right. Until next time.
Yeah. Thanks everybody, and yeah, we'll talk to you
Thanks a
soon.
bunch.
Keep on hobbying.
Yeah.